Cheers, man.
Like, yeah. For having me on here. Yeah, I definitely enjoy the traffic you get through your show. You get like a very diverse crowd of people coming through, and then they come back too. So you're doing something right.
Yeah, here's hoping, right?
Yeah.
I haven't had it. I mean, I've had some heated conversations, but nothing terrible. I've been really fortunate. And everybody that's been on, I'm incredibly grateful for. It's been an insane ride doing this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was like at one point that was like a goal of ours is to have LCP doing that too, and it's like it just didn't quite manifest. Like it's like had stuff set up somewhere else, then got stuff moved over to like my place, and it's like I don't know. The kid didn't really quite have the bandwidth for managing all that too. It's just like
Do you guys have a central hub for Lost Coast Populist, or are you guys each running independently at your place?
We're all just kind of solo operatives that link up and collaborate in meetings or sometimes in person, but usually just like kind of a Zoom or can either do Telegram or Discord meetings as well. Don't have
all through like an online medium.
Yeah,
you guys are reaching out to each other.
Yeah, for the most part here. That's what's been going on with it.
And how did you get affiliated with Lost Coast Populist?
Well, that was like kind of through the health freedom movement. And it was like there was like it was the COVID thing that brought people together. It's like all beyond that. I was self-proclaimed agoraphobic. Just pretty much keep to my own. Had 3 close high school buddies and wouldn't do much else to go do the keyboard warrior stuff online. That's that. I did always think that Facebook was it's like it's not for what people are using it for. Just like gonna post, check out my car, man. Check it. Take a smiling picture with all my stuff and my family. It's like we got this global community here, and the world's pretty screwed up. So maybe we should talk about how screwed up the world is, and that's kind of all my Facebook is. So use that crazy conspiracy guy on Facebook.
You use yours more as a platform to spread out things that you think are relevant.
Yeah. Yep.
As opposed to just sharing the odd photo of something.
Yeah, I'm opposed to like sharing. Like occasionally I'll put like some of my life on Facebook. It's usually just other news articles or memes or whatever. And
yeah, I tried to avoid that too, which is ironic doing this because that's 90% of the game. You're almost opening up this rift to the outside world and people just get a peek in.
Oh yeah, that's why it's kind of funny having that focus and then also try, like I brought like some of my art along too here. Check it out.
That was quite the binder of art.
Oh yeah. I got large format stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you do a lot of abstract work like that?
Yeah, it's mainly stuff like that. But
okay.
Yeah, it's like you can feel free to take one if you want. I got like large format printer, so I print my own, fairly cheap.
Is that what you do? Do you have a day job outside of Lost Coast Populist? Is that what?
No, my day job is the kid. I was like up until 2015. I was like house painter. Got my contractor's license, then found out I had MS, and then like tried to get on the disability wagon just because like I deal with like constant vertigo and like memory issues and all kinds of weird stuff with MS. So pretty much got eventually got on disability, and then that made me the perfect stay-at-home dad candidate, and that's my main job now. I got a 4-year-old little girl that I spend my days with, and
which is a lot of work in and of itself,
dude. Yeah,
parent.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a blast, but it's a lot of work, like you're saying. It's
got to be nice in that regard where you get to be home, and so working again for Lost Coast Populist, it kind of fits right in.
Yeah, it makes it where it's just like kind of my, if I have not really too much spare time during the day, it's usually like my insomnia evening projects. Like, okay, I'm gonna bust something out. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do the news review podcast, whatever you call it, the reading between the headlines. So,
do you try to just? You guys are obviously trying to build this out to be a competitor news organization, right?
That's still which is tough with our manpower. It's got which is like, we do, I guess that's why we, have our niche, focuses where it's like, okay, we're going to report on stuff that other people aren't reporting on, which is, just, general stuff that people are just like, and I don't know what it is about local media, just, afraid to rock the boat, or like, it's like, that'll make me look bad if I say stuff because that makes someone else look bad. And
yeah, you guys are not afraid to rock the boat over there.
No, that's, and that kind of started from the whole, how I got into it with the COVID stuff too. Cause my wife worked at the city of Eureka and lost her job to their vax mandate. And it was like, there wasn't really a whole lot of, they had exemptions, but if you had your personal belief, you'd have, submit your written exemption and that would go before a review board. So it's like, your opinion itself, it's like, oh, that's not good enough. That's your opinion. We reviewed it and it just doesn't come up to muster here. I don't know what to say. But then like, later down the road, hearing from other little, people that I've talked to, there were some people like granted, immunity from it who were like, in big, important head of department positions, and like, okay, well, your opinion's all right. If you feel that you don't want to take it, your job's important enough to where we're willing to let you do that. And that's kind of weird there to me.
Yeah, everybody lower on the totem pole kind of got screwed.
Yeah, and
what are you going to do? You're going to.
And she was the head of a department, I guess, just not a big enough department. And she was like the head of, like the finance that ran all the water billing. She'd been there 5 years, like no other real blemishes on her stuff. Just
didn't want to get back.
Yeah, and it was just sad the way they were doing it too. With the even before she went, it was the whole medical discrimination aspect, to where like if you weren't vaccinated, you were forced to test. Which like I don't know if you've ever done those tests. I never did, but I'd pretty much call it nose rape. It's like, it's got this thing this far, like, we're going to give you a nostril lobotomy. Just, shove this thing up in there. She had to do it like, I think like twice for medical stuff. And she's like, no, I get like a splitting headache. And she ended up going like, doing this research online where she found like a saliva only thing that the city wasn't willing to pay for, where you just spit in a cup and, have it analyzed in some lab back east. And that's like, with insurance, it ended up being $200 a month. So she could do that to keep her job until they told her she had to go.
And the city didn't want to go down that route?
No, nope. That was, the way they phrased it was like, or like, they were kind of like, I think it was their human resources person, like sent her an email like asking if, she was going to take the vaccine or if she's going to resign. And, she just responded that, with pretty much their, form letter of, what their cutoff date was and what, all the stuff they said. And she said, well, that's what I'm going with. And they responded back to that like, oh, well, we will take that as your formal resignation. That's pretty much how that went down.
And so was that the start of you getting politically active in this way?
Yeah.
Or speaking out more?
Yeah. I mean, I was already kind of doing that because that was like, I think that was October of like a year ago now. I think was that 20. Yeah, something like that. It was like a year because I know their vax mandate was been in effect for a year. But
it was all centered around the COVID stuff. Had you been posting or doing any news related stuff outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, like really what, like as far as like what motivated me to like, be the whole, Facebook warrior, that was like, that goes way back. You go back to like, talking like 9/11 conspiracy stuff. I mean,
so you've been in the trenches for a while.
Yeah. Because it's just like, I mean, they say like, I don't believe in conspiracies, but, just like some other people say, like, I don't believe in coincidences. You look at 9/11, like, I don't know if you've seen like the study from University of Alaska, where they just focus on Building 7 alone, only got a little bit of fire up on the rooftop and then just did the same pre-fall collapse. And they came to pretty much the same conclusion as this other video that was out. I don't know if you know the Hollywood actor guy, Ed Asner, big guy with the big old mustache, but he like put out this video for like a group of 100 or so engineers that pretty much came to the same conclusion about Building 7 alone, just focusing on that because like, hey, nothing hit it, just had a little fire in the top, still building, just went like. So you look at that combined with like a year before it, the planes hit it, they moved the World Trade Center to, what was it, Seattle? And also there was like, it needed like a bunch of asbestos abatement. So it was heavily insured. So the guy who owned the building came out, definitely in a better situation having it destroyed, getting insurance money than having to pay for asbestos abatement. And then combine that with the Pentagon thing, where there's actually a video out there of not a plane hitting it, but like a missile hitting it. And they were like under investigation for like, I forget how many $1 billion that went missing, and that just randomly hit the place that had all the records on that. It's like, okay, like I said, coincidences. That's a few too many coincidences there to like really meet muster for my kind of logic anyway.
Can you do me a favor? Just point that mic just a little more inward. Perfect. Right there. Yeah.
Okay. That better?
Yeah, that's perfect. The 9/11 thing is something I haven't delved into past just giving it a cursory glance.
Mm-hmm.
But the money aspect is a little interesting. The fact that, we lost all this money and then the place that supposedly had all the accounting is just now gone. That's a little... You hear that and you're like, okay, I could see why people might go down this road.
Yeah. And then also just the way it was used for like, okay, so if this was, a planned thing, then you could say that it was used to like, prompt the whole Iraq war and the subsequent Middle East war that lasted through Obama. So we had pretty much, 20 years of, that I call them like the great oil crusades over there, where it's just, straight Bush, then Obama, everything's going to change. And then it's just more of the same and killing more people with flying robots. And like, just that whole thing, like that really turned me to like looking at news sources like the RT, like, just like, probably not the best place to get your honest opinion about Russia, but about what America is doing over in the Middle East, they seem to be calling it like a lot closer than any of the American media.
Is the RT a Russian news network?
Yeah, they do like, they're a Russian one, but they also do a complete broadcast in English, which is...
So kind of like the BBC in some regards, where it's more...
Yeah.
Not national, but just global news.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's others out there that have done it to where it's, a little more unbiased, but for them, it seemed like because they're...
Well, is there even unbiased anymore?
I don't think, only when you're looking at it from certain aspects. I'm sure, everybody has, biases from some perspective. It's like, gotta pick and choose depending on what you're looking at.
The problem with conspiracy theories is that they're seductive and some of them turn out to be true. And I think people get lost in that because if one turns out to be true, what happens to the other 99? Well, are those true too? And then people go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I don't know. They've been popping up as a lot of them being true. I've been paying attention to RFK coming out about like, how JFK got taken out. That's, it's like, that's another conspiracy theory, like, down the street. Like,
that's another one that's dicey.
Yeah.
When they start the magic bullet and all of this stuff, it's like, see, and the fact that they don't want to release the records.
Yeah.
Makes you think, well, what are we doing here?
Which was a lot the same with the COVID stuff. Like, we want to.
Well, lab leak.
Yeah. Yeah. Lab leak. Yeah. It's totally.
Yeah. Nobody would believe in that. That's fringe conspiracy.
Yeah. Like at the Jon Stewart who framed it best, we had the
bit on what was it, Jimmy Kimmel?
Or I think it was on Colbert.
Oh, Stephen Colbert, what?
Yeah, and he's, okay, so there's the Hershey chocolate factory in Hershey, Pennsylvania. We've got a giant chocolate explosion. What do we think it came from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great bit.
Yeah.
I'm only 25, so my experience with news and unbiased news is pretty limited. Okay. But I think for me, it was watching the COVID stuff that made me think, oh, maybe you can't just trust a CNN because it's a CNN, or Fox News because it's a Fox News, or X or Y because they've built up this legacy. Maybe they're susceptible, just like people are susceptible to bias and skewed information and not doing their due diligence investigating a story.
Yeah. And I'm 41, almost 42 here. but it really didn't have as huge of an impact to like, I don't know, like right, a little bit of like 2007 or 8, like right around, that was when I got like, high speed broadband internet, and all of a sudden you got real access to like, before that you get the dial-up, so you can get little bits and pieces here and there, but like as soon as like, I think everyone got, the high speed internet, then like, yeah, I guess just the saturation of the news is different.
Well, your
like
access changed.
Yeah.
It wasn't just being fed a primary source from the TV.
Yeah.
It was now you can go and look at 100 other sources from various sites.
Yeah. And then you track down what you're looking for too. So that would lead to the bias problem also. So yeah, can like, okay, I don't believe that. So I'm going to track down what I do believe in. And that's going to, form my whole world, worldview, and that, all the inherent problems with that as well. But,
well, yeah, the confirmation bias as well, where people are just searching only things that confirm their side of the story.
I find myself doing that too.
It's hard to pull yourself out of.
Yeah, I'm like, yep, I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one, but
well, it's just, I mean, that's one of the good things about the internet is you have access to this information, but one of the problems with the internet is you have access to this information, and there's just so much out there. And I think it's easy to write off conspiracy theorists because, I mean, moon landing stuff.
Yeah.
Flat Earth. I mean, you have some pretty
that's
far
why
out there
it's good. Like, it's good to be able to like do the research and look up, you can, find peer-reviewed documents. Always good to look up peer-reviewed stuff, at least, even though those can be manipulated as well. Like, I don't know if you saw the one what was that about? Is like they purposely created this peer-reviewed thing about like a gay dog park or something like that, and they submitted it just to see if they could get it.
It was a fake paper. It was. Something about like
the exact premise,
homosexuality in dogs and rape culture or something, and they published it. Yeah,
it was an example in one of the psych classes I did. As one of the other things, like as went through the California Conservation Corps and ended up with some scholarship money from that, and that kind of fueled my multi-change and college courses that I've done. Like when I first moved over here in 2000, it was all like my mom and grandma and stuff helped me out with college, and that's when I was looking at like computer graphics design and kind of stuff like that. And then I totally washed out. Came back again with the CCC scholarship money, focused on computer hardware. Then I totally dropped that again and came back with psychology with the after the MS thing, got on with the Department of Rehabilitation and almost completed that. Like I got like 6 classes to finish up at HSU now, Cal Poly, but that was Are
you going to Cal Poly now to finish that up?
No,
I on the docket.
Yeah, it's a thing to do sometime when I was able to do it when the kid was like, I don't know, like infant, where I could just set her in one place, she'd stay there, and it was just changing diapers and stuff. It's like, that part's tough, but it's a whole different when you got like a little wild animal running around. You got to keep track of it. It's like, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna put this on pause, and then it was also just something to do with the political sphere within HSU and the COVID thing going on, where it's like, I just can't be doing this right now. Like, and one example I have is I was taking a class is pretty much the psychology of discrimination or something like that, and like there was it was very being only online, it was very like cookie cutter and like kind of forced or compelled question and answers. Like teacher kind of give you questions leading you to a certain conclusion and not really allowing you to like add any of your own input, or I guess that was it. So in this one question, I added like a third one and just asked about the, discrimination that, minorities were facing around the world from the COVID lockdowns and, the implications of the, global bankers, setting the whole thing up and stuff like that. And then the response I got was that, how dare you do that? and what you just said is anti-Semitic hate speech. And if you do anything like that again, we're going to try to get you kicked out of school.
Just for posing the question?
Yeah, just saying the phrase international bankers. That is, equivocated with anti-Semitic hate speech. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so that kind of made me kind of doubt, what am I doing here right now? What's the point? Get a degree, get a job, but is there...
So you just bringing up international bankers, you're sure that was what kind of...
Yeah, exactly. He took me to the part in the book we were reading where it said, this is an opinion-based book. Some guy wrote it as his opinion, that saying international bankers is equivocated with anti-Semitic hate speech. He's like, it's just obvious. It's in the text that we're reading right now. And it's like, it was a long book. I wasn't familiar with all of it. I, pick and choose, get my way through the course, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that. International bankers being anti-Semitic doesn't...
Just, it goes back to, and I guess just people making those accusations, and that, historically, a lot of bankers have been Jewish, maybe.
But were you saying Jewish international bankers? You were just saying international bankers?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, all I said, international bankers.
So after that, you kind of realized, oh, maybe this isn't.
Yeah, that was part of it. That and the kid, but that was a big part of it that made me kind of think about, what? And then just dealing with the other classes and just how everyone was wrapped up in the whole COVID nonsense, and trying to write papers and stuff that were anti-COVID, during that it was a challenge getting and the teachers would go along with it, but they weren't too happy.
I had a teacher one time, we were involved in a discussion. I think it was a social computing class that I was in. And the professor was posing the question of how we influence people to get the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was under the context of, we can influence them subconsciously, perhaps that would be better, but we need to figure out a way where we can make them do this thing, even if they don't want to do it. And I was sitting in this class, it was over Zoom. I was back here. Yeah. And nobody's pushing back. Everybody's actively engaging, contributing. Well, we could try, subliminal messaging. We could try reinforcement through, negative consequences. All of these things. And I'm just sitting there thinking, how is this a real discussion that we're having right now?
We could try a billboard on the side of the highway like there is right down near Humboldt Hill right now.
We could do the COVID passports. All of this stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is really uncomfortable. And the fact that there was no pushback, it was just a line thought in, okay, this is what we need to do. Yeah. The question is, how do we do it? Even if the person doesn't want it, we need to do this because it's going to be what's best for them.
Yeah, it's crazy that they're still pushing it even now.
There's still DHS signs up.
Yeah.
Save a life, wear a mask. Get vaccinated.
Yep. Yeah, they sent, I submitted a records request on it, and I guess for COVID outreach and the billboard near Humboldt Hill, they spent $60,000 this year on, it's federally approved grant money, but just to get the word out that, still got to get that shot, get the jabberdoodle. Yeah.
That is a great allocation of resources.
Oh, I know.
I think we could all agree.
Being that they're I forget exactly how many, something like 19 million behind, or something to that notion in the county level. There's some article that came out that they're super short, but it's but that's not out of the same till. That's, it's completely different funding. It's nothing to do with it's total mismanagement of funding. That's why the inflation is what it is. It's it's weird. It has nothing to do with anything, but everything's so damn expensive and we don't know why.
Well, it's the Ukraine war.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's I think that was Justin Trudeau, the Canadian wildfires. Okay, that's the solution. Got to send more money to Ukraine and that'll put these fires out.
Were they trying to say that? I didn't hear that.
I don't know. at this point, I'm unsure if that was just a meme, a joke, or if he actually said that. I mean,
It's hard to tell sometimes.
yeah.
Reality's getting pretty hyperbolic.
Yeah. That's especially when it's like, for the democracy of Ukraine is the reason why we're doing it, supposedly. But they have literal Nazis in their troops, and like Zelensky's came out and said that, there won't be an election if anybody runs against him, or
I think it's just during this war.
Yeah.
He said there's not going to be an election.
Yeah.
They need to stay united.
Sounds like democratic.
Sounds like democracy in action.
Yeah. I made a comment to the board of supervisors because they were doing the solidarity thing, had the flag up there. It's like, you might want to take that down because they have literal Nazis in their troops. Do I really want to be affiliated with that? And
the Nazi thing was crazy because they pushed so hard against it when it first came out that there was Nazi branch in the military.
Got my Facebook banned for just posting a picture of their troops with the lightning bolts. It's like, okay,
they banned your Facebook.
Yep, for a solid month for that one.
Did you appeal it? How'd you get it back?
Oh, I kept appealing, and they eventually give it back. I was regularly banned for like a month at a time for just either that or COVID vax stuff, or I don't know. And that's kind of why we stopped posting any COVID stuff to our YouTube channel for LCP, because we don't want to go through the rigmaroles of creating new. Some people like, I'm on LCP number 33 or making new channels every time you get banned. It's like,
we'll just get a little rough.
We'll just post it on Rumble. I mean, I don't know.
Is that where you guys predominantly are now?
That's where I stick pretty much most of the reading between the headline stuff. Just a little too difficult to keep up with YouTube. Like, okay, I can say this, I can't say that, and most of the stuff's fine, but it's hard to tell. Sometimes I'm like,
they have a pretty heavy hand on YouTube.
Yeah. And I'm surprised. Have you ever had anything pulled?
Yeah, I had a video pulled, and I think it was because I had a guest on who was talking about election fraud.
Oh, that was the other one we got done for. Yep. Anything about election fraud?
Can't do it. Can't question any election, the integrity. Can't do it.
So do you how do you do it? Do you do like a live that goes to YouTube and record and go to Rumble or something? Or
so I stream it, I push it out live, and then upload a cleaned up version just about the audio. I don't edit anything out. I don't do anything funky with it. I just clean up the background noise. I'll take out the fan noise and then re-upload it.
Nice.
But yeah, I've gotten YouTube and TikTok have been the ones I've faced the most challenge
too,
on.
because that was the whole butt porker thing that got me like, okay, I'm actually gonna have to get pulled out one of my old phones, set up a TikTok account, because I'm hearing that they steal all your data. I don't want to use my main phone or my computer, so I'll pull out this old phone. It'll be tied in with one of my junk emails. See how this goes. But they banned like harder than YouTube almost for like for the COVID stuff. Yeah, it's like, wow. I mean, I guess it is a Chinese spy app, and they're like, where the virus controversy originated, so that makes sense. But
not even just the COVID stuff. I've had videos of surrounding anything LGBT gets flagged.
Okay, I think TikTok. I had one or something flagged on that too. It's like you gotta be careful on the
funky
TikTok.
Set of rules, yeah.
It's kind of weird. I haven't they've set out warnings. I think I got like 3 or 4 video bans on there since I've been on there like a month. It's like, okay, be careful here. I don't want to get banned on the TikTok.
I was on my last strike for a while, and they limited my account where I couldn't have any links posted. I couldn't share any links. And it was that way for quite a few months because I had so many things taken down. And not even controversial stuff. YouTube would allow stuff that I think anybody would look at and say, oh, that's not controversial. Why are they pulling that down?
Yeah.
And they would just yank it, give me a strike, yank it, mess with my account. I got locked out a couple different times. I thought they deleted my account once because it locked me out, and they said, you're done. And then I appealed it. It took like a week and I got it back.
Wow. So how long have you been on the talk?
I think I joined in November.
Okay.
Maybe October, November of last year. So not crazy long.
Okay,
It freaks me out. I avoided it for the longest time because of all the data that
same reasons,
siphons. Yeah.
But now I have seen, like, as far as stuff it does, like, I am impressed with its subtitle feature, or it's where, like, you go in, it does it, and it'll let you go in and edit it line by line. Like, I wish YouTube would let you do that, or if they could build like that into Rumble, that'd be great too.
I think YouTube does if you post from the app, the YouTube Studio app. I think they let you have a little more creative freedom on that.
Okay.
Maybe, don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I haven't tried from. Yeah, I think I've only tried from the website, and so I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I recently started pushing stuff out to Rumble too, just because it's another platform.
Yeah,
but Rumble's weird in that it's got that branding of a right wing site.
That's one of the reasons I brought the art portfolio here was for the recent experience I had at the Disability Pride event last month. I don't know if did you see any of the video footage that I put out for that?
Well, yeah, set the stage. That's how we came into contact. You sent me that video.
Yep. Okay.
And I watched it, but set the stage for people that haven't seen it.
Okay, well, I mean, like I said, I'm disabled. I have MS. I do art, and they're posting that you could submit art to have in this thing. I was like, okay, I'll go check it out. Because I was like, through my college endeavors, I even volunteered at the Ink People back when they were over on like was that E Street or wherever their old location. So I was like kind of familiar with it. Like, okay, go check it out. And it was like definitely different than advertised. Not that I have any particular problem with LGBT, but to me it just seemed like we were just coming out of LGBT Pride Month, and this was supposed to be Disability Pride Month. And then I showed up, started walking around. I was doing just like a Facebook Live, checking out the tables, asking them what they had to offer and stuff. And like within 10 minutes of being there, like Kayleen Riviera came up to me and said, "You can't be filming here. This is a queer space." I was like, "I thought it was a disabled space." And he's like, "This is a queer disabled space." And then it just kind of went like that from there. Like all of a sudden it was like, as soon as I made my rounds around all the tables and got to the queer Humboldt table, like it was just triggered just because I was sporting the LCP press badge. And that's just like guilty by association. It's like, okay.
Well, one of the people that confronted you actually said that.
Yeah. She was the one that was running the event and does like disabled services. And it was weird because at first, she, talked to me and it's like, okay, well, he's disabled and he is he's one of these people. So I guess he can be here to film. And she said, it's all right. And then she went around and I guess enough people whispered bad things in her ears. Like, you just can't be here. People don't like you. So you can't be filming. It's like, you can be here, but you can't be filming. And that, I don't know, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because it was, advertised on the city's website as a public event. It didn't seem like it should be, all of a sudden privatized to where one group doesn't like me, so I can't, just do a Facebook Live. It's not like in my opinion, I wasn't being disrespectful to anybody. I was just, I have art in this event. I'm here to record it. And then it just kind of ballooned into whatever happened.
Well, you were being respectful. You were walking around asking questions. And like you said, when you were met with that one organizer, she was engaging with you. You guys had a nice dialogue. And then it became apparent that it kind of flipped a switch once she realized who you were and who you were affiliated with.
Exactly.
And then the tone kind of started changing.
Yeah. And then there's just like I don't know the guy's name, but he was the one that, towards the end of the video with the gray hair and the mask. And he was just, saying that it's pretty much just for, having opinions that I have, that I was pretty much responsible for, people who might have been, yelling things at, the previous events for the kids' drag shows and stuff. It's like, anybody, you're responsible for all of that because, of your affiliation with Lost Coast Populace.
Well, guilty by association.
Exactly. Yep. So that's yeah, definitely. I was halfway expecting it, honestly, just because, looking at the news and stuff, like Biden someone in his administration said, beyond Pride Month, this is the summer of Pride. I don't know exactly which one. I was like, okay. So I guess that was probably part of why I submitted art and got in, because I was like, okay, I can go in there. I'll have art in there. I'll record it.
Did you go in there expecting this to happen?
I didn't expect it to be like that. I did not expect it to be like that, but I kind of halfway expected it to be somewhat entangled with the previous community from Pride Month before.
And that was part of your influence in going, was to almost test that theory? And
yeah, just to see how, how am I just, a disabled person with art in this, in this event going to be, treated, which I guess I could have stayed and not recorded, but being it was a public event, and even though it turned out as, it's on private property, it's on Synapsis, which is owned by, and I guess, I don't know if it's directly by Leslie Castellano or by like some non-profit organization ran by her exactly, but it gets it, and that ties in kind of with, I don't know, did you pay attention to the whole Roy Gomez conflict with her and the anarchists running the city of Eureka?
Yeah, I want to get to that too, because I know that you're another factor in that.
Yeah.
But the disabled pride thing, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, they were in the right by removing you. They did. It was a public event, but it was on private property.
Exactly.
So they did have the right to say, hey.
Yeah, but that, to me, it still brings the point, because you look at the funding for like a lot of these nonprofits to put together the Disabled Pride Month, and they're drawing from the state coffers. So you're using public money, or state money, taxpayer money, to host private events only for certain groups of people. And that, I don't know, it just seems like if it's using state money, it should be open to the press.
Well, that's the question, is would they have acted this way to any other news organization?
I don't.
Or is it
think
just
so.
Because
I don't think that we've got
populist?
Yep. And that's the whole thing. And they said, you're not media, you're not news. You're what do you say? Like, you're just going to take this video and post it on your hateful website or one of those other hateful websites like Rumble. So then it's pretty much everything on Rumble is just hateful to people coming from that perspective, just because it's just all, it's all different from the other media that they're used to. So it's all hateful, I guess.
Yeah. Once Donnie's name started getting thrown around, people started realizing who you were attached to, and it just kind of went a little sideways for you from there.
Yeah. And that's part of what made me dig my heels in too. Cause it's, it's like, okay, these are people that I've never really had, word one, a conversation with. Like, all you're doing is you guilty by association, like they said. It's like, you're not willing to talk about it. You're just gonna, say that you're responsible for all this other stuff just because we disagree on like the two things that I finally got in at the end. Is like, had to go outside and talk to him and finally say that, that's the only thing we really disagree about, is like, drag shows for kids and like pushing the gender treatments on kids. Like, that's the only real things that like people are concerned about. But it's all about, if you think that or try to bring that up, you're just hateful, and you're trying to make it so they can't live comfortably. I think those are some of the other words. But
did you at any point think, were you considering turning off your camera and just staying to observe? Because that's what they kept posing, is you can stay, we just don't want you filming.
Yeah, I think by that point I was kind of triggered. I was like, I'm in it for it. If I'm not going to be here and record, I'm just not going to be here and hanging out, because I'm just the disdain I had been treated with at that point. I was just like, that. I'm not just going to stay here and hang out. I'm here to record now. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I think you were there to record from the beginning. That was the whole focus, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I even when I brought my art down to the ink people, I told Leslie that I was going to be recording there too. So it was, I wasn't, shy about it. I was open with it. And
you weren't hiding your intentions, but you also kind of wanted something to go down in some sense.
Yeah. Or it could have been fine. It would have been nothing burger. And I would have been happy either way, really. I was halfway suspecting something would, but it was also, it was fun going down to the Ink People. I took the kid down with me, got a tour of the facility, and got a pretty cool setup down there. So I'm sure there's a lot of good that they do in the community. I'm not talking that down at all. It's just this, another story. We talk about the nonprofit mafia aspect to it, to where like it's just all these little local nonprofits seem to kind of group together and only kind of cater to like a certain inner circle of like, what they're going to do, who they're going to be in favor of, to, putting on events and doing things within the community.
You're not a fan of that?
Not so much.
When you say grouping together and kind of uplifting specific people, isn't that what most organizations do when they come together?
I guess, but when you get like a consolidation of like multiple nonprofits kind of working together like that, and if you're working to lift some people up, then you might also be working to put some people down, which is kind of part that would be concerning to some people like myself. But
is that what feeds into the city council stuff that you guys are pushing?
Yeah, that is part of it. And for me it's a couple of things. Like we were talking about, the history with my wife losing her job, so that's always in the back of my mind. Like I know that
you've got a slight jade towards the city, just in general.
Yeah, just
that,
and to like what they're capable of. Like that was some pretty malevolent stuff. And if you look back at we still have it up on Rumble. In one of the articles, we have like a compilation of all the people who were present, like, and commented during their, when they were bringing their vax mandate up for discussion. And there were like 2 people that were for it, and like, I don't know, 20 or 30 people who were there who were against it. And they were just not listening to the public. It was, we're doing it. We're just doing it. And that's a big part, but it's also, and for me, looking at the bird's eye global view too, is all the little things that they're doing that feed into the globalist agenda. I mean, you look at the housing projects that are coming in, just California in general, but us playing in with I call it the green ordeal, but all the electric cars, trying to get people to, I guess, not that riding bikes is bad, but building housing that doesn't have parking spaces. It just, it seems like it's tying into like the China like 15-minute city thing, where like, okay, we'll get that, we'll get the digital dollar, and then if you don't cooperate, we can just turn your life off. And I saw some of that like in Australia during COVID with the like Aboriginal population, because they got like, okay, well, you guys were disadvantaged, we're going to take care of you, we're going to put you up in these government houses. And then it came down to it where like, okay, well, you're not taking the COVID shots. Well, get out. You can't live here. So it's like a double-edged sword with a lot of those kind of programs.
So the global affairs, as well as kind of what has happened personally for you locally, is all influencing the direction that you're moving. Yeah. And is that tying into this push from you and from other people in the community against the members on the city council who are self-described as anarchists?
And I don't know to what extent, and I'm sure everyone has their own worldviews. I don't know if they're as far down the rabbit hole as I am, for sure, but that's...
But it seems like you guys are unified in the fact that you don't think having council members who are anarchists is in the best interest of the city, to say the least, right?
Yeah, and despite, the fact that, like, I'd mentioned in the last city council that, like, it's kind of funny that, self-proclaimed anarchists are also moving to implement a one world totalitarian government. So like, okay, down with this capitalist, American government, and on with the global bankers running our lives with digital currencies. And
are the local members at the city level making those decisions though? Are they enacting legislation at a city level to do that? Or is that a more broad national
you look
thing?
you look at the housing projects, and it very much is. There's, here and in Arcata too, there's like literal high-rise housing complexes coming in with the 15-minute city, idea where there'll be, centralized grocery stores so people don't have to travel that far. And there won't be enough parking spaces for the place. So it's, pretty much making to where people aren't going to be able to drive anywhere. And then all you got to throw in is the whole digital currency thing on top of that. And, hello, China.
Well, the digital currency is definitely on its way.
Yeah.
I mean, they've pretty much made it known that that's what they want to do. But what is interesting to me is that, so the people who are on the council and have these anarchist beliefs, they're not hiding them. It wasn't necessarily, they didn't sweep it under before the election and then now all of a sudden they come out this way. They've been that way the whole time.
Yeah, I think the way they phrased it is that, they didn't, mention it really. I've heard it was G. Mario Fernandez. He didn't really disclose it during the election, but he wasn't asked about it. So it's like, hey, if someone would have asked about it, I would have totally been honest about it.
I think we talked a little bit. He was on the podcast before his election.
Yeah.
Him and I talked a little bit about it.
Yeah. I for some of the stuff we did on what Roy had done, I'd glanced back over that, and he talked about the, I don't know, a lot of the stuff. I'd done the stuff for the eminent domain and yeah.
So are you guys afraid that, or are you personally afraid that people didn't know this when they elected these individuals, or do you think that there was some deception involved, or are you just worried now that they have this position of power that they're going to enact some future legislation that's going to be a problem? What are your guys' concerns coming from?
Probably
I get the like global aspect of, the 15-minute cities. I get all that, but on a city level, if we bring the scope in a little more narrow, what is your concern with these individuals on a person-to-person basis? What is the hesitation and fear stem from? I'm not 100% familiar with Roy's situation. I understand he is involved with some legal struggle with the
and
people and Leslie.
Partially to do with his business and running a business in the city with someone who has that kind of influence with the nonprofits and how they work and work with some other businesses or nonprofits or whichever. But and I'd say that I'm not too concerned with them like on a personal level. I don't know exactly how aware they are of global stuff. I mean, I know I talked to Kim Burgell about it, like just about the COVID stuff, and she was, this was back, I don't know, a couple years ago, pretty much. It was before they even did the city vax mandate, I think, or maybe it was right after, somewhere in the beginning of it, and she was like totally unaware of, just global stuff like I was talking about with Australia, and how people there's actual concentration camps and stuff there for people who are refusing the vaccines, and that's on. I don't think they're totally aware, or if they are, I guess it's a person to person basis. If they are, in line with what's going on the global level.
So, what does the fear stem from against them? Is it just the anarchist branding that's worrisome, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's Yeah, and I don't know exactly how to answer that one. Well,
because you do find it alarming, right? There's a group of people that are alarmed that these people are in these positions. My question is just why and for what reason?
Okay, well, I guess it would be like the ties to violence,
But again, is this a national?
Well,
attachment? Because obviously anarchism has this branding. Some people might attribute it correctly or wrongly.
Tied to Antifa and stuff. So it's but we don't really see it here on the local level. And I think we saw maybe a very little bit of it when right after the George Floyd thing came. There was some BLM where okay, there were some people coming to town that didn't seem like locals. Seemed like they might have been pushing to incite something that I don't know if anything really got too incited besides just blocking traffic that pissed people off. But But yeah, I'd say that would be the concern, is just the ties to that kind of belief
on a national level.
Yeah, but bringing it to a local level.
But are you concerned that these individuals are going to, I mean, have they enacted any worrying legislation, or have they cast any votes that are cause for concern, or you guys are just trying to be preemptive?
Well, there was, and I think an example made was just the spending, like, I think it was $70,000 just to review the police force, just on reviewing practices, just for, not to say that there wasn't problems with, some actions that police may have taken here and there, but given the state of the city, could have that money been spent better to, clean things up? And, I'm sure with a lot of it, it is based on state policy as well. But you look at, like, I think Shasta County and the way they've turned with their board of supervisors and stuff, it can be done a little different on the local level. Not that anything's going to be perfect, but I'm having politicians that are kind of aware of what kind of political stuff is, like, a dishonest, or I don't know.
Are they being dishonest here?
I don't know if they know they are, or if they're being,
But dishonest, how so?
Just with and when you get like with Antifa, you say that, that's not a group, that's just an idea. And that's dishonesty right there, because it is a group, they've done violent things. But when you start doing that, you're just, equating speech, or, equating an idea with reality. And you're just saying that, that's, people said that that's not real, so it's not real.
Is one of them saying that Antifa isn't real?
Yeah, I think, and I had a brief little conversation with Mario, and he had said that's, it's more of an idea than an actual, real thing, which is consistent to how, on the federal level, they poised it like, oh, that's not a real thing, it's. Yeah.
Well, it's an idea, but it definitely is a real group.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's both.
And there was, like, a guy that went undercover on it, but he was, he was a Trump supporter. So, okay, he was obviously had his own biases and it was totally made up, or, he was actually a guy that went undercover and, found out some stuff with death threats, or I forget, I think it was, I forget which newspaper put it out, but if you Google just MAGA or Trump supporter goes undercover with Antifa, I'm sure you can find the article on it.
So it sounds like to me, just listening to this now, it's not necessarily that you have problems with these individuals. You have a problem with the branding that these individuals are identifying with. So again, back to that label of anarchist. That seems to be your point of fear.
Yeah, you could say that, and that is, that, and I guess that boils down to the culture war here.
But isn't that kind of ironic, because they're afraid of you for the same reason, because guilty by association?
Yeah, that's true. You could look at it that way.
Is that all that this stems from? Because I know people are, well, I shouldn't even say people. I don't know how big the group is, but I know there are some people. I had Kim on, and we talked about it, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it seems like it's almost something being made out of nothing to some extent. Or at least that was my interpretation.
What?
About these members being anarchists, that it's not really anything substantial.
I mean, when it comes to an ideology, like, okay, it's nothing substantial, but it's something they're working for. Like Leslie, she holds these symposiums, with this just
the artists dismantling capitalism.
Exactly. So it's innocent, innocent as it is still just pushing the whole thing that we need to get rid of the system as it is, which ties into the whole, like, okay, are these these people that they might not be doing it on purpose, but they're making way for this global shift that's being pushed by the the globalist bankers, not to sound anti-Semitic or anything, And that's where it comes down to like, okay, why is someone else doing this? I don't know. That's why I'm doing it, just because I see these things on the global level, and even if it's mildly associated with that, I can see how it's just opening the door for this to come in, and that's just what I feel called to do right now, is do whatever I can on the local level to push against that. No matter how effective what I'm doing is, who knows? But.
Well, in that sense, it's a fair critique, because obviously these movements don't just spring up at a national or global level. They have to start small and then gain traction and become what they will. So in that sense, yeah, there is some validity to that. I'm not aware. I mean, it's almost like you have to wait until the rubber meets the road in some sense, right? You almost have to wait and see how they vote on these things.
It's not like, pushing back against what they're voting on particular. It's just standing up and saying something just so the general public, knows or even thinks about it and might look something up. And that's half the reason why I call into the Board of Supervisors or say things at the city council, is just to put the idea out there, just to kind of combat other ideas that are floating around in the room. And it might not be directly related to, what they're pushing that day. That's...
How does the code of ethics come into play on that?
Okay, and I didn't get too familiar with the code of ethics, honestly. And for what...
But weren't you one of the ones that were... arguing that this was a bad move and that this was...
I was mainly arguing that it seemed kind of ridiculous that they were just kind of suspicious that, Roy came out and said there is an issue with the code of ethics, and then like 2 weeks later, like, we're going to get rid of this code of ethics. Nothing to do with that. We've been meaning to do it for a while. But that kind of sounds, suspicious to me. Just like, okay, that doesn't look good. And that was the main point I was making. And
did you look into the code of ethics at all to see what grounds that would stand on?
From what I saw, there was like, the one big difference was that like the mayor could censor something, and it wasn't a big deal in this situation because the mayor's pretty copacetic with most of the standpoints that any of the other council members are doing. But if we had a mayor that maybe wasn't happy with what they're doing, it could be a useful tool. Maybe. I don't know.
Vote of censure to what extent?
I'm not sure. It was just, it had the little something in the toolbook. I'm not really sure. I'm not a legal person. To me, it was mainly just
the optics that freaked you out.
Yeah. And also just like I'm saying, it's, just there to put the word out that, something's fishy.
But you weren't sure that it was fishy.
Yeah, not to a legal extent. I'm no legal expert. I will not.
But not even to really any extent, right? I mean, it doesn't sound like you had any real backing to go down that path. You were just kind of you looked at it and you were like, oh, yeah, blue and red. This is purple.
It's fishy. It's fishy that you guys are taking this, trying to remove this after someone said that. That was the my whole standpoint for saying anything that night, and that going back to what's lingering in the back of my head is that hey, you guys are capable of some horrible things like the whole COVID vaccine thing. So I'm here to oppose to whatever you might be doing because I think that's wrong.
Are you worried that being so aware of these national and global movements that it might skew your perspective on a city level or a more local level, even county level?
It could, but then I'm just some guy out there doing the public speaking thing. I'm not, making decisions in any.
Yeah, but if you were if fortunately or unfortunately, you're not just you anymore. You're attached to this news organization.
Yep.
And do you think that affects your guys' credibility if you're speaking at a city council meeting talking about how the vote on a code of ethics and that being rescinded is problematic and going to lead to these things, and then you haven't even really dug into it? Don't you think that's kind of problematic?
Not really, just because all I was saying is that, it looks bad. And I didn't have details on why it was problematic, so I wasn't saying why it was problematic. I was just saying that it looked bad.
Yeah, but you weren't just saying that it looked bad. I mean, you were up there and you were saying, I'm drawing a blank. You were saying something along the lines of, where does the power lie now or something? And that's kind of how you got Katie Moulton to throw out the "you asshole." But it wasn't just, hey, should we be worried? It felt a little more targeted of this is nefarious rather than this could be nefarious and people need to look into it.
I think there's, without the mayor part being in there from before, I think it did like place a little more like power in the city managers like arena, and I did already kind of have a bone with that because like during the whole.
But what does that mean? Power in the city managers arena? What that feels a little intangible.
Yeah,
power to what extent?
Well, it's not even related to that. But going back to the COVID vaccine thing, like.
No, I get the national stuff. I get that would cause skepticism.
This isn't a national thing. This was to do with the city manager. It was like the whole time that the city was, had their vaccine in place, I had asked like Kim Pergel, like, I don't know, before, I think it was like September, before they had, removed it, like on the steps of the city hall, like, what's it going to take for you guys to remove this? And she had said that it's going to be like, it depends on, the way the county's going and, what the Department of Health and Human Services did. But then like later on, I did a records request and it turns out that the whole time, like for all these people coming to speak on the thing, it was all just, in Miles Slattery's lap. Like he was the sole arbiter of when the COVID vaccine mandate for the city would drop.
But how does that relate to the code of ethics?
I believe, and this is also partially because I was, getting some info from, Roy. He was saying that from what he had interpreted as that, the not having the code of ethics in place, like, empowered the city manager to some extent.
But you were unsure of what that actually looked like and to what extent?
Yeah.
That's kind of problematic.
Yeah, maybe.
You don't think so?
Yeah, I mean...
just going off basis of source, I mean, Roy, again, is embattled in something against the city and Leslie, so I don't know that if he came forward with some information, I would take that wholeheartedly. I would take it into account, like I would anybody saying something, but I would do a little more back-end work to figure out, okay, what is this actually, to what extent, and what power has the city manager lost or gained through the rescinding of the code of ethics? What has changed with the board or the council? Like, what has the mayor given up power? I know that the vote of censure has now changed. I think it requires 3 people on the city council. I don't know what it was previously, but I mean, it kind of seemed like it would be a bigger deal, and it hasn't really. It's not.
Yeah, well, that's also the difference between drawing the line of there's the public speaker me and there's me doing, media stuff. And sometimes there's
But hasn't this been covered on Las Cosas Populous?
Yeah.
So didn't you kind of already merge those two or blur the line between those two distinctions by cross-posting?
It's definitely blurred, but it's also the way that I approach these is also satire.
Do you make it known that it's satire? Or is that just your interpretation as you're putting this out there?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that I'm...
So satire in what regard? That you weren't actually worried about the code of ethics?
No, just in the way that I was reporting on that event. It was written in a satirical manner. And
we're still talking about the code of ethics meeting.
And when I spoke, I'd even, phrased it in, that it was satirical and what I was, how I was phrasing it. So it is a complicated nuance to, whatever it is that we're doing here.
It definitely feels more complicated. it sounds like you were writing the article, you were serious about the content, but you were just maybe throwing in some jokes or, trying to be funny about it. But the code of ethics itself, that was a real worry for you.
Yeah. And it's also just mainly, asking people to look at it and pay attention to it.
Yeah, from an outside perspective, somebody who obviously has no skin in the game, that would not have been my interpretation from the coverage and from how you guys were portraying it. I mean, I thought it was a bigger deal based off the sentiment from the people that were speaking out against it and the coverage. It seemed not a bigger deal in the sense that a lot of people were worried, but a vocal minority. And so I thought there was a little more validity in that, but it seems like there's a lot of speculation going on without anybody actually
and it was also
turning the page or opening the book to try to figure out what's going on.
And there was also detail, and I did have like a brief conversation with the city attorney when I was there, and just asking her like who was responsible for ethical violations, because that was kind of the main question that had got me called an asshole. Was like, okay, who is responsible for this? And when it came down to it, she answered me that it was ultimately on a local level, it was her that was responsible for it, which kind of, I don't know, kind of made it, seem a lot, a little more muddied, because it was all about, like on the state level, like ethical violations are only viewed as like monetary. Like if but they don't really look at ethics on the other scale, like if you're for, as I'd said, if you're in support of defunding the police, should you be making decisions on funding the police? And that was kind of what the city attorney explained to me, is that like on the state level, it's not really about that, ethics in a broader sense like that. And that's how she interprets it and looks at, local stuff. It's only if there's like monetary, things that are influencing people's decisions.
So rescinding that code of ethics would not necessarily have any significant effect.
Besides the mayor's part is, and like,
how many people are required to have a vote of censure? That's pretty much it. Would you say?
Yeah, I guess. And just the city attorney, which is, that doesn't change at all. If it just comes down to her, like as far as being the cudgel or the enforcement to it, which is, also, like I was saying before, difficult because I'm not a legal person. I can't, I can look at that and just.
Well, I mean, you don't have to be a legal person to read the document and then see what rescinding it would mean. Right.
To some extent, there's a lot of legal jargon in there, and I did read it over a little bit, but not enough.
Fully.
Yeah. No.
Because I'm just thinking, if I went to a council meeting and spoke, I personally would have my ducks in a row to some extent, right? But maybe people don't. I mean, we're not a huge city, and maybe, I know there are some people that speak just like I said, speak.
And for me, this is a hobby. I do this after my day job, chasing a kid around, and it's largely just about, fighting the good fight on the local level versus what I see wrong on the global.
But don't you think that fighting the fight in that way with limited information and almost an incorrect understanding, don't you think that might attribute people to be less inclined to believe you should you fight a fight that is more significant and has some actual validity to it and maybe does pose a danger? It's almost like a boy who cried wolf type situation. I would understand if you did this, you got Katie Moulton to say that, you scored some points, and you made it out to be that of, hey, look, these people, we can't have freaking city council members cuss at constituents who are speaking during publicly allotted time. That is a strong argument. Mm-hmm. But then you counter that with this whole dance with the code of ethics, and then it kind of turns out, well, maybe it's not a big deal, but I was making it out to be a big deal, but maybe I threw in a little satire. Don't you think that undermines as if you just said, hey, this is all satire from the jump, and then look, we got a council member cussing me out. Problem. Let's put the spotlight on that.
Not really, because like I was saying in the first place, to me, it's just surface view.
I know, but what are you doing for Los Coast Populous? Are you just writing commentary, or are you trying to write news?
Well, yeah, it's going to be, it is news, but it's also opinion.
But are you guys blurring that line?
Well,
like, are you writing both opinion and news, and are you making sure people can tell the difference between both of those?
I mean, we put, you know, one thing we do is we try to have, you know, links to stuff we're talking about. So there will be, you know, some receipts if we can. You know, we'll do records requests. So we will try to have details when we can. But
yeah, but is that part of the commentary or part of the news aspect?
That would be part of the news. I know a lot of the stuff you look at, there's not even going to be links to stuff. It's just, you know, people put it in there, and it's just, you know, straight opinion being called news out there. So, you know.
Yeah, but are you guys making sure that the reader knows the difference in each of your articles, if this is a news or if this is just satirical?
It says so in our title, and say it on here.
It says satirical news?
No, it says, no. Like, if you go to the website, it says Los Coast Populous News and Opinion.
Yeah, I know that, but are you making sure people know what is news and what is opinion? Like, if you're looking at the New York Times, they have opinion columns. And so it says opinion, and you know that you're going to this place for the opinion. But if I were to go and read your article about the code of ethics, would I know that that is an opinion, or would it be blurred? Or I'm just supposed to infer that because you crack a couple jokes, or you try to add some humor? I mean, where's the line?
It's news
there?
Because I reported on what happened there, and I didn't say anything that didn't happen there, as far as I know.
Yeah, but it's kind of misleading news in some sense. I'm not saying the site as a whole. I'm trying to focus the scope on this code of ethics aspect. It seems like it's, I mean, there's a lot of kind of just up in the air of, well.
Yeah, on that, that's the thing. Like, that story, the whole point was that it just looked bad, and that was...
Yeah, but it looks worse for you guys. Now that this is the revelation of, oh, well, it's kind of just bullshit. It looks bad on you guys. It doesn't... You had something, not with the code of ethics, it seems like, but you had something at least with the Katie Moulton comment. That,
yeah,
I would have focused on shining the spotlight on that, but you guys focused on the code of ethics, and it seems like, well, nothing really changed. And
well, they got rid of it.
Well, yeah, they got rid of it, but what does that even mean? Like, what has changed since they got rid of it? Can you name anything other than the vote of censure being 3 now? Or what's the difference as opposed to
just that
having it or not?
Before, the mayor could have done something about it, and
but
now the mayor can't.
Done what? Done something about what?
About ethical violations, and
but meaning what? What does that mean when you say that?
I mean, now the mayor has less power than the mayor did before.
But less power for what? Do you have a specific example of what that power change would look like? Like, okay, here in this situation, she could have brought the hammer down and now she can't? Or less power to what?
Yeah, just less power to act on something that she thought was out of line. I don't know.
But what does that mean?
What does it's a hypothetical here. Like, what?
I know, but you can't.
What does it mean?
Do you have a concrete hypothetical situation?
Well, it hasn't been used. They didn't use this. You know,
so they got rid of a power they never used.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that at face value doesn't seem like something absurd. Especially where we can't even put a concrete finger on what that power looked like. Right?
Yeah. But just and the fact that they removed it after someone said that there was ethical problems.
Yeah, I get that, but this is also a source who could be valid, could not be valid, but has some legitimate gripes against the city and members of the city council already. So is that the only source we would want to take information from in that situation?
Well, there was no other real sources about, making complaints about ethics.
Is that a red flag?
I'd say just say it's newsworthy because no one else is, reporting on it.
Newsworthy or opinion worthy?
Well, and as far as, people reporting on stuff that happens at city council, it's kind of a gray area. I mean, stuff that is, newsworthy, stuff that isn't newsworthy. I mean, like I said, it hasn't happened, but will something happen that, is ultimately newsworthy? I don't know. Do you know?
I don't even know. I'm still trying to know what sparked this fear of the code of ethics other than just a potential optics issue. That's what I'm kind of hung up on.
That's all it was, as far as I know. And also just my, previous interactions with, the city council over COVID stuff. That's none.
I just think that who am I to say this, but you guys might want to tread carefully blurring the opinion and news line. Because it seems like, at least I've had Donnie on before, we've chatted.
Yeah.
It seems like he is trying to build this to be a legitimate, reputable news organization.
Yeah.
And situations like this are not carrying you guys to the point that you would like to be. This does not look well. At least in this particular instance, not casting judgment on you guys as a whole, but this particular instance doesn't bode well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see what you're saying from that, isolating this one thing.
I mean, I don't know. I think you guys would have been better off just, again, highlighting the Katie Moulton thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and I mean, that is kind of news because it's...
That is pretty much where we went with after the event happened, but that was kind of like,
Yeah, after the event, you guys tried to lean into it a little bit, but it was still this fear of, the code of ethics has been removed. Now they have lost this power and almost anarchy is going to reign supreme. I mean, these are the themes that are...
Yeah, that I don't the article following it wasn't about that, the code of ethics. That was previous to that.
Well, yeah, you guys write subsequent articles about different things, but this article in general, I mean, I would have to read it again. I don't even know if I read it the first time. I might have just seen the video and the subsequent dialogue from you guys on that, but it almost seems like you have an opinion of it being satirical, and I'm kind of hesitant to say that would be apparent to the people that are reading it, attributing the
a lot of what we do is just
trying
to get people interested in local government too and paying attention.
Yeah, but you don't want to be the group that cries wolf and then people just write you guys off. Like, you guys are in a difficult spot now where you have some negative branding about the drag stuff. Yeah. And I think Donnie's pretty passionate about that, and so like everybody's got their hill that they want to ride, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to make sure that you don't completely trash credibility,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but that's... And
I mean, who am I? I'm not running a news. Yeah. I know nothing about news. I've never written any news articles or done anything. I don't claim to be any, I'm multiple degrees away from what the news is. Yeah. But
that's kind of where we want to do with, as far as growing it, is getting, other people in there doing stuff too. Because when you only have, 2, maybe 3 people writing stuff, it's, you're getting an echo chamber. So that's what, if you get that right now, that's because that's kind of what it is.
The echo chamber, you guys definitely don't want that, but just, I don't know, you want to make sure that if you're putting something out as news, it's actually the news, and you guys have corroborated that to some extent,
Yeah.
Not just one source who might potentially be a biased source, might not. And then, do you speak at city council meetings a lot? Is that something you do? Or you?
Yeah. I'm a regular attendee.
Are you attending them in a news capacity, like a Los Coast Populous capacity, or is this just a personal endeavor that you like to do?
Like I say, it's kind of a blurred line there because I'll show
a lot of blurred lines, man.
Yeah. Which is going back to, the roots of the whole thing of what we are, why I'm here is it started with an activism thing and bled into a news thing. So I don't know how unblurred those lines are going to get because.
Well, I don't think it's not that those lines have to be unblurred, that you're this news guy and you're also you. Because I mean, I'm a podcaster, but I'm also just me. It's blurring the lines of you as Ash, the news guy putting out news, versus you, the public citizen, just putting out satire or commentary. Those are the lines you don't want to blur. You don't want to blur the satirical guy and the news guy, because then people are like, well, is he bullshitting me right now, or is this an issue that I should be worried about? Or anarchists taking over? Are people freaking out? Like, is this going to lead to problems down the road? Yeah. Or is this guy just cracking jokes?
I think a lot of that is just, people got to make up their own minds on that. What's important. And there's, we're not the only news out there. So that's what I'd say. It's, like I've told other people that.
Yeah, but you guys are fighting to just be the news.
Yeah,
not the only news, but be considered even news. Like that's where you guys are fighting now, because you're a small organization.
Yeah, but like in this day and age, like it is so much just about opinions, and that's like I've told, people at the disability, pride event is that it's just. Largely it is, what people seem to be, reality based on news and stuff. It is all just opinion based these days. So when you get down to it, that is, you'll get some facts in there, but
what's ironic about that whole sentiment is that that's the message that I got from Donnie, is what you guys are trying to fight, is people flavoring their news with these biases and leaving out facts and only using half truths. That seemed to be kind of the precipice of Lost Coast Populist, is we're going to give you the news from a populist view. But is that, in this instance, is that what's happening?
I mean, all I can say is there's going to be a certain amount of opinion with any news, and there's a certain amount with ours as well. So, I mean, we put facts in where we can find them, but yeah, and
facts in where we can find them is an interesting way to phrase that.
Well, I mean, where do you find facts in other news? I mean, it's all based on opinion, or it's just.
But aren't facts, and that's how we can.
Well, where do you find a fact? Where do you find
somebody
a fact
does the actual work to figure out what is true and what is not. That's where you find the fact. Is somebody actually takes, the time to figure out what is the truth and what is not.
If you can actually find, an actual document, like what there was in this case with the, the code of ethics.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty cut and dry case of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not to I'm not trying to, bash you guys right now or anything, but I have to hold your feet to the fire a little bit, because it seems a little outrageous. And
for me speaking there, I wasn't, the only thing I was, mainly speaking to was just the optics of removing the code of ethics after someone mentioned it. Even that, it was Roy, that's someone who's, on our platform for, similar opinions and whatnot.
Yeah, would we shift the spotlight to worried about the optics of this rather than there being some nefarious, or insinuating there's some nefarious plot and that power is being lost or exchanged to different people by them doing this? Or at least read the document, or do a little more back end work.
But I wasn't saying that it was being shifted, and I was asking where the power is now. So a lot of it, and if you read what I write, it's not saying stuff. It's asking. And so that just, it's asking people, to think about it. So if you're phrasing something in a question, you're not stating this is the way it is. This is how you need to think about it. You're asking.
Yeah, hearing you speak there, asking where the power is now, I didn't get the feeling you were asking, a genuine question of where is the power now. It felt like you were insinuating the power is now lost. That people have lost the power.
Okay, well
Which
that's all
I mean,
about
I could be
interpretation.
Yeah, that might just be how I interpreted that. But you guys are walking an interesting line, and I would just pose caution.
Yeah, well, I will heed your advice on that, but that's
we'll take it with a grain of salt because look what I'm doing. You know, I'm not the arbiter of great advice or great information, but it just the code of ethics thing in particular right now has me a little worried. From how I interpreted what you guys were putting out to how it seems like it actually is playing out isn't great for the direction I think you guys are trying to go. And so I would recommend caution, but I would recommend caution to myself in a lot of ways too. So again, grain of salt.
Roger Dodger.
Okay, we'll get you out of here. I know you got to go to the Friday night markets. This was great. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Do you have anything you want to add extra, or?
I don't know. Was there? I forget. Before we got into that, was there one more thing we were going to talk about, or something? Or
I know the
we kind of got
the disabled. Yeah, the code of ethics thing took a turn. The disabled LGBT. We touched on that.
Okay.
Code of ethics was another big one I wanted to talk to you about because I knew you were a player in that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was there anything else you want to add? Or?
I forget. We got wrapped up in that one for a while, but I thought I just mentioned it and then got wrapped back into it. What was it?
Back down the conspiracy rabbit hole. Was there something there? Or?
It might have been.
There's some good ones there. We could do a whole podcast just on some conspiracy theories and the COVID stuff, of course.
Yeah. But, I don't know if we wanted to wrap it up. What would be a good way to wrap it up? And there was I'd say that moving on to another article that we did. It was just on the recent. It was like a focus on a local community member, and she kind of coined the phrase the nonprofit mafia that I was using earlier, and she was a woman like struggling with like a domestic violence situation. So just in being an interview that ended up contacting us out of the TikTok community of all places. And so we did an interview with her and just talked about all the, and it is, once again, it's just, her experience, but it is some kind of disturbing things to think about in the local, like drug recovery, and she had faced like I think her kid had went into foster care at one point in time, and like this was also during COVID, and the kid was forced to take the COVID jab to stay at the foster care place, and then she was forced to take the COVID jab to see the kid at the foster care place. And then what else was she talking about? Something about how like I think she said that at Waterfront Recovery, like all the patients get prescribed the same drugs. This is once again just be something to look into, because if that is true, it's kind of disturbing, because people there for heroin and alcoholism, you'd think there'd be a different cocktail to get. But and then it also kind of tied back into the Jefferson Community Center where the All Age Drag Show was with Heidi Benzanelli, and from her perspective, she is saying that like these rehab people were like farmed into like these low labor positions, like cleaning up needles under houses, that were also being like I think they might have been like real estate that was of interest, or being like flipped maybe, or something like that. But definitely an interesting story relating to local programs and nonprofits and all that.
Is this a story you guys just put out recently?
Yeah, it's on there. It's on. You can see all the full interviews on Rumble and stuff if you want to check.
And this is under the news category, not the opinion category, just to be clear.
Yeah, okay. It's under the news category, but it is
flavored with opinion.
Take it with, it is like, it's one person's experience, and that's how I worded it through the whole thing. It's, this is what she observed, this is what she's reporting. This is,
yeah, we'd be experience. Happy to talk about that at a later date. I haven't read that. I'm not familiar with any of that, so I can't.
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion because I don't know what that is. I would have to look into it a little bit.
Okay, gotcha.
But this is fun, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know we can get you out of here. Do you want to plug where people can find you, where they can find all your stuff?
Yeah,
Did you want to plug any more?
Oh,
where
yeah,
they can find your artwork and stuff.
So and this, I'm just Google.
And are you selling these prints? Like if people want to buy one?
Yeah, there is like I'm on the Fine Art America, and you can get like, not that I have a whole bunch of traffic, but I would like to sell stuff. There's shirts, prints, and all that. But there's stuff here.
If you tilt it up, that's your camera right there. People can see that.
There we go.
Bring it over just that way, just a tad bit. Perfect.
Okay, yeah. Just
I mean, you've got some cool prints. How long have you been doing art?
This started like right pretty much when my disability kicked in. When I found out that I had MS.
Are you drawing these?
Yeah, it was like hand drawn and then using like Photoshop to like draw like color out of photography and use the hand drawn kind of tribal styled shapes as like cookie cutters.
Those are pretty sweet, man. That's cool.
But yeah, that's.
And I'm sorry, did you say that people could buy those somewhere?
You just Google AR Teeter artist and it'll pop right up. That's on.
Okay, sweet. Anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, just lostcoastpopulist.com, and that's.
You guys got your official press pass.
Oh yeah, that was the complaint. Like, they're not news. They don't have press passes. Like, oh, well, look at us now. We got press passes. That's
okay. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming on. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man.